Make sure that we're actually up and working here. Give us just 1 second. Perfect. All right. So, welcome to Implausible Nature, guys. Up and working here. Give us just 1 second. You want to turn off your audio, Bob?
Yep.
All right. Well, welcome to the stream, everyone. We've got a fancy new background. So we're taking advantage of Discord's ability to sort of green screen out the background. So hope you guys like it. Let us know what you think, and we'd love to make improvements to it. I just threw this together today. I think it works pretty well. So um, anyway, let's get right into it. So Games Workshop dropped a juicy nugget on us. Was it yesterday? I think it was
Yep.
yesterday. And this is a bit right now. You can already see it on the screen. The newest GT mission pack is going to be called Arks of Omen. I'm sure I will continuously say Ark of Omens because it took me about 5 times to realize it was Arks of Omen. Okay, GW. Anyway, they previewed some interesting things from it. So probably the biggest thing is no more detachments. There is one detachment to rule them all. So the pretty cool thing about this is if you take a look at it, um, what it means is what this all means. It looks a little convoluted at first, but it's pretty straightforward. You have to take a HQ. You gotta have one guy. That's fine. We're usually taking two anyway. Most armies are taking HQs. I don't think there's a detachment where you can not take an HQ, um, except for Lords of War, who are exempt. So Knight players, don't worry. Um, if you're also a Black Templar player and you're watching this, not to worry. They're excluded from this. But the cool thing is now, aside from your one compulsory HQ, you pick your compulsory slot. So that could be troops, elites, fast attacks, heavy support, or Lord of War. And the cool thing about it is um, that's the only slot you have to fill. And this thing costs 0 command points. So no more Vanguard costing you 3. If you don't want to run troops, you don't have to run troops, which is definitely wonderful. Um, and I uh, I really like it. And then you get these other slots here. So these are all the optional slots. You can take up to 9 troops, even if you don't have to take at least 3, and then 3 each of the others. And then up to 3 HQs. So we can go 1 to 4 HQs, which is really nice. Flyers and fortifications are included in this. Dedicated transports, 1 per infantry, same as now. And then the uh, the other nice thing that has changed from typical detachments is elite slots. So typically, everyone likes battalions because, especially Space Marines, we tend to run lots of elites, um, some of which are characters. Well, if you're taking the compulsory 3 troops instead of elites, you only got 3 elite slots. However, you can take up to 3 additional elite slots as long as they are character units. So this is really cool because Judiciar, Apothecary are typical character units that we're going to run in the elite slot for Black Templars, and they are now in their own little bracket. So you could have both of them, and then Termes, Van Vets, and something else. Something like that, 3 other elite choices for a total of technically 5, because 2 of them are characters. So that's a really nice thing that they did there. I definitely am digging that. Um, so that's the first part. We'll get to some of the other stuff that they talked about. But I you know, kind of want to. What are your thoughts on this new one detachment to rule them all, Bob?
I think it's a nice change to be able to give us a little bit of adaptability on it. Now, the not so hot take in on what you were talking about with troops is I'm still taking troops. Um,
Yeah,
I think most of us should still take troops, but it's a nice to be able to have the option not to
yeah,
in some skewed lists. But
yeah. I know.
um,
I know at least one person who will be happy, and that is our friend Kale, who would prefer to just run assault marines as his troops. You can basically do that now, so without having to spend 3 CP. So I'm sure he will be happy on that. We'll have to get his thoughts. On this, I know we interviewed him not too long ago. You can check that video out on our channel. I think I like this. I think does it change a lot for Space Marines?
no.
Not really. Um, you know, uh, does it change a lot for other armies? Yeah, it certainly does. So I think the big thing for us is the big, or not big, but one of the opportunities that this presents is we're like you said, we still want to take troops. Um, whether it be Crusader squads or some sort of concealed positions, because we
Yep.
pretty much need to have concealed positions. Unless this mission book drastically changes the secondary game, where we're not needing that, which I don't know if that's gonna. We'll have to wait and see. We just don't know. Um, I think it opens up an opportunity for us to maybe take 2 troops instead of 3. That could save us around 100 points or so that we could put towards something else. Maybe beef up an elite squad, take an eliminator squad, or something like that. Right? Gives us a little bit more flexibility in that. I think we could do two troops and not be adversely affected. But we're still going to want to take them, as we said in our competitive contradictions video. Troops are not attacks, not for us.
Yep.
So yeah. Overall, I like it. I like the fact that it's zero CP, so it doesn't matter. Something else they mentioned in the article is strategic reserves no longer cost CP. So might see some more of that for units that can't natively deep strike. Um, that's a nice change, I think, because spending a CP or two at the beginning of the game to put a bunch of stuff in reserve, yes, you're already strapped for CP is kind of feels bad. So um, it might give some of our units that don't have that uh, reserve ability a little bit of a play with that without having to pay anything for it, which is
Yeah,
nice.
especially the fast units that we have.
Hmm.
It may be, depending on points, what we're going to be seeing here probably in the next month or so, points, but it could be a potential for something like maybe Outriders, depending on where they are, to be a quick take objective
Hmm.
unit or maybe attack bikes or something like that. Or even if you're facing like an Alpha Strike army and you just don't have enough terrain to hide everything, could potential to get half your army into strategic reserves. But you have to be really careful with that. Make sure you don't put too much in there, so you
Right.
sacrifice the battle plan.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, I'd love for Outriders to be worth taking. They're really cool models to me. I think they need a massive points drop, which I don't know that they're ever going to get because then they're going to start encroaching on regular bike range. But to be honest, they aren't worth more than 35 points a model to me. They just don't do enough damage. They're not scary. Everybody thought they were super scary at the beginning of eighth when they came out, and they're just not. They're not scary. So, um, I'm not super. I don't think they're that's going to change. To be honest, unfortunately, they're kind of in a between a rock and a hard place points wise, until regular bikes are legend, whatever that may be. So, but I would love for it to happen. So, if GW, if you're listening, 35 points per model. Give the sergeant some weapon options, please. Thanks. Merry Christmas to us. So, so anyway,
Until Bob builds a list with them, and then
until,
that's
until
everything.
Bob was it, yep, and then they're screwed. So something else that they mentioned is the that if you wanted to run allies, you can take an allied detachment. And how that is going to work is you can see here, Battle Brothers is a new rule. That word scares me. We'll talk about that in a second. Um, and it says if your Arks of Omen detachment is an Imperium detachment, you can include one of the following as an allied detachments: one Agents of the Imperium auxiliary support, or one Patrol detachment, one Imperial Knights super heavy auxiliary detachment containing one free blade unit, or one Votan patrol detachment. All right, so there's a couple others that for filthy heretics and Xenos on here. These are just some examples. This is not an exhaustive list, um, but this scares me for a number of reasons. One, Votan allying with Imperium um, just sounds like bad news, especially if they make it so it doesn't break rules, like detachment rules. Um, uh, I don't. Votan are the new hotness on the street, and it's one of those things where we could end up seeing a ton of Imperium plus Votan lists, which is boring and unimaginative, and that's not how you fix the Imperium armies or Space Marines in general. Um, the other reason it scares me is because I remember seventh edition and previous editions where there was a chart, which they mention a chart. There was a chart for Battle Brothers, and it was a disaster. So I'm very worried. Not very worried. I want to see the whole rules. But I do have some concerns about this. What are your thoughts, Bob?
I think I'm going to reserve judgment until I see it, but my initial reactions as a tournament player in heavily ally uh, metas through uh, fifth through really even seventh edition,
Hmm.
this could go awry really quickly.
Yeah,
Um, Really, it's gonna once we find the tournament players find the one or two
broken combos.
combinations,
Yep.
then every single army is gonna have the exact same one, the exact same units, whether it be Votan with uh, Blood Angels, to get that firepower or what have you. The way they'll get around it is to break the detachments if you take allies, which I think they need to do, or
Which is
very
written
heavily restrict it.
into the codices. So it would have to essentially give them, like, retroactively say using this does not break detachment rules. Um, because it's written into the books that your army, like for example, our vows, it says if your entire army is Black Templars, you get this rule. So yeah, I think honestly, like I remember the days of like seventh and whatnot. You could ally Eldar and Imperium, Tau and Imperium. It was a mess. It was a huge mess. And honestly, I think GW had the right idea as far as keeping single faction lists to be the competitive meta, right? Souping in all these other things, you you there are so many combinations of stuff that I'm sure GW has not been able to playtest or uncover, that the community will absolutely playtest and uncover broken combos and broken things like that that will just absolutely dominate the meta if it's allowed. Again, this is speculation. We don't know what the full rules look like. There could be some significant penalties for like something like Tau and Imperium, right? Because they're typically enemies. But there is lore instances where they fought alongside each other against a more common foe like Chaos or something like that, right? So, but this does have the potential for disaster. I think doing something like this and making it specifically putting in there, hey, this is not for tournament play. I think is fine. You want to do that and say not for tournament play, and then people just playing casual matches, but they want to play matched play in their LGS or with their friends, and you want to soup in a whole bunch of stuff and have fun, cool, that's fine, in my opinion.
Yep.
Um, but it's a very thin, dangerous line to walk.
It's a very very slippery slope, and
Yes,
like I said,
yes.
if if it breaks detachments or you can't use your special rules, your army special rules, and I would even go so far as saying don't allow stratagems with it, then
If you don't
then
get
I'm okay with it.
if you don't get the
If
allied detachment stratagems,
Yeah,
yeah,
because people right now, even if it breaks your army list or your army rules, people are still going to say the strength of the the data sheet plus the stratagems are enough
yeah,
to warrant it,
yeah.
and I just don't think that's okay. Um, honestly, yeah, I was joking around earlier in our Discord, and I was talking about how I was loath to have to turn these videos into the okay, which ally combination is the best with
None.
our list?
None. We're gonna purge
Because
all those filthy Xenos, which is exactly what Grand Enforcer just said. Yes, we would just purge all those filthy Xenos as Black Templars. We hate them all. Yeah.
unless it's an
Um,
Inquisitor,
unless this is good. He's still a
a
well,
Berserker one.
well, but he's a witch. Witches, Xenos, they're all the same to me. Anyway, yeah. So I think uh, yeah, I don't want to have to be talking about which allies are the best for us to take in a competitive setting. So I'm really hoping that it doesn't really that it becomes something that's like, hey, you can do this, but is it the best choice? No. That's what I'm hoping for. We'll see what happens as GW releases more information for us. Um, so um, so yeah. Something else that they mentioned is, hey, we've got uh, some of these HQ characters that say one per detachment. Well, there's only one detachment now, so how could you possibly run a second one? And the answer to this is a new stratagem called Heroic Support. Use a stratagem before the battle when you are mustering your army. If a detachment ability, excluding Gene Sect, I don't know what that is. Sounds Xeno-ish. Would limit the number of your times that you can include a unit in that detachment to one. You can include a maximum of two in that detachment. Instead, you can only use stratagem once. So what this means in Space Marine terminology is you can have two captains in the same detachment as long as you use this strat and pay a CP for it. This was a topic of discussion on the Discord, so I go ahead and lay this out for everyone. This does not include chapter command. So, chapter master, master of sanctity, master of the forge, this is not included. Those are specifically said in the rules for chapter command, one per army.
Yep.
So unfortunately, if those were one per detachment, that'd be wonderful because hello Grimaldus and a Master of Sanctity. I would pay a CP all day long for that. But unfortunately not. This does not include that. Honestly, I don't see us using this. We don't really need a second captain. We're mostly running Helbert anyway. If we wanted to take a captain, we could because he's got the chapter master keyword, not the captain keyword. So, so yeah, I don't see this as being something that really helps Black Templars, but certain other armies like this filthy Tau Xenos here on the screen um, probably helps them. What are your thoughts?
Also, doesn't help you with the Emperor's Champion. I've seen that one going around because
He
it's
is
on the
one per
data sheet.
army. Yeah, it's on the
Yeah.
data sheet. You can only include one. He's essentially a named character without being a named character, which is the way he should be, I think.
Yep.
And I like the way they've written his rules in our current book. I think I think maybe a little points drop for him might be nice. But but yeah, some folks have talked about, oh, now I can take, my chaplain, two chaplains and Grimaldus and the Emperor's Champion. Sure, you can. I don't know if that's the best choice, but that's something we'll have to address once we see all the rules and we get to list building because Bob and I will be hard at work building new lists for everyone. Um, so speaking of
Hopefully, I
which,
don't change too much of
hopefully they don't
my
change too
list.
much, because we're getting ready to probably this weekend, right before or right on Christmas. Maybe it'll be a Merry Christmas present for everyone. We're gonna be popping out uh, a new um, a new video on Bob's tournament meta list. So I'm really excited about that video. I hope that this new mission book doesn't change that list too much. Hopefully, it'll just make it better with a few tweaks, perhaps, because it's a really cool, fun thematic list. Um, so yeah. So let's see if they. I think they mentioned a couple other things in here. I just want to. Um, they talked about uh, objectives a little bit as well. So with the objectives, they said several missions have been updated to provide new challenges for experienced commanders. In particular, the timing on when you score primary objectives has been tweaked, making for an even more even experience regardless of who won the role to go first. I'm a little concerned by that because I don't think there really was a need to make it more even. It's pretty even when the person who goes second scores at the end of the game, versus the command phase of turn 5. What are your thoughts on that sentence, Bob?
It's tough to say without more information on it. I feel like
I guess my question is, do you think that the timing now, as it is even enough between the two first or second positions?
I think the stats say that it the person who goes first still wins 58% of the time. So I think they're probably trying to address that a little bit.
Yeah,
But I don't think that's a timing issue for the 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 objectives. I think that's hey, my army has more guns than you do, and we're not on tables with correct terrain, and you just get blasted off the board turn one.
yeah, right. Planet
Which is
bowling ball.
which is why one of the reasons why I mentioned in our trading video is hide. You need to hide,
Hide.
and potentially that's why the strategic reserve change might be a good option for us too. So
All right. Now, some of you might
um,
say hide, but that's not a Black Templar thing to do.
yes,
Listen,
it is.
listen. Life is the Emperor's currency. Spend it well. Do not sell your lives cheaply. So,
Unless you're a neophyte.
unless you're a neophyte, and even then, you're probably surviving now longer. There are no longer meat shields, unless the AP is really high, because we want to take the best save. In any case, yeah. Looking at the chat here, Liftronic says hi. Thank you for joining the stream. Yeah, Bayaz, I wish he was elite as well. That would I think, but see, now the thing, whether he's elite or not, to me is irrelevant because now we have more HQ slots. So prior to this in Nephilim, it'd be nice if the EC was elite. Um, Now, it doesn't really matter much to me, because we have that extra HQ slot. I don't think it's really necessary for him to be elite. What I think he needs is a points drop. He's 100 points, which is good value for what he does. The problem is when you're taking a character, you're taking that character generally speaking because either they're an insane beat stick, like Abaddon, or Helbrecht, and even then Helbrecht has buffs himself, or you're taking them because they are buffing other things like Grimaldus. The EC is good for his points, but is he great? That's debatable. That's the issue there, I think. So I don't know what you think about that.
I like the EC. He's
I like him
been
too.
in some of my lists. I kind of switched him out in the list that you're going to be posting this weekend. Hopefully,
Yep.
he kind of was a switch between my Judicar and the EC. I've been kind of testing both, and I ended up opting for the through the car. But uh, a points drop would be helpful. It would make me slant a little bit towards the EC. Because I like him a lot. He does a lot of damage. He comes innately with a damage 3 weapon, which is
Hmm.
difficult to get in
Yep.
a lot of our lists. So I really kind of like that. And you don't have to spend any CP to get it. So
And he's got
plus,
two attack profiles. He re-rolls everything against characters. He's got the 6-inch heroic intervention. He's got a lot going for him. I think people are down
fights
on him.
first.
Fights first against characters though only, but
But you can give it to the warlord trait to give
yep,
him fight first.
which also gives him an extra attack. I think that one too,
Yep.
right? Yep, which definitely helps him out. Yeah, I mean, he's a fine character. It's just I I think in our lists right now, we're struggling to find the points for him. Like I'd love to take him, but we're struggling to find the points for him over taking something like a Judiciar who hands out fights last, which is super important. So that's I think the trouble that we're having with him.
The one
Um,
thing I think has been most interesting about this whole article is the what they were talking about. They're rewriting all of the missions. So we're going to get a whole slew of new missions. And
yeah, they said that last time, and they weren't all rewritten. I would be
well, they did.
surprised.
They did because they all had the primaries were no longer.
They were no longer 15, right? If
Yeah.
that
So you
counts
had
as
to
a
play.
rewrite, then I guess so, because they're tweaking the primary timing. So to me, I would be surprised if we had all new missions. I would be very surprised. I think we're going to get mostly the same missions. I think GW knows which missions are being run at tournaments. They're going to look at those missions and compare them to the other ones that aren't being taken, and maybe do something to make those ones that aren't being taken more interesting. Um, I think that is more likely to happen than all new missions.
So I think my prediction. So I'll probably hear about it if it's not. So I don't know if you take a look at
But
the
if you're
missions
right,
right
then
now.
you will be like a god.
So my prediction is right now it's 66% or so, 70% of the missions are 5 objective missions, and the rest of them are 6 objective. I think they're going to make it more even. So it's 5 and 6. And I'm also going to say that they're going to be a little bit more of a split as far as the placement of the objectives. So on those, there is more times than not. There's a set. It's again about 2/3 of the time. There is a center objective rather than not. So I think they're going to probably change up the locations of the objectives. So that'll be good. Um, Now, the other thing that's really interesting about this is that they have said that every army is going to have 3 secondaries, and they are all getting tweaked, supposedly.
Yeah,
So that gives me a lot of hope that that Mike Brandt, who is now running the tournament scene, has taken a look, and he is heavily involved in these. Uh, has taken a look at revising the really strong ones and tone them down, as well as the ones that are really weak, and address those.
yeah.
So I mean, let's be honest, we got 2 really weak. Well, I won't say really weak. One really weak Black Templar one middle tier questionable with Bathe, and then, um, well, okay, we really got 2 really weak ones. Let's be honest. Well, if you're talking about uh, our version of shock tactics, forgive me.
Yeah. Um, Suffer not the
Yeah,
idols
thank
or
you.
something like that.
Yeah,
Or worship not the something about idols.
worship not. That's what
Worship
it
not
is.
the idols of something something. Um,
So
don't worry, we're not going to worship those idols because shock tactics is just straight up better now by a long shot.
for now,
For
but
now. Honestly, like, so we discussed this on the Discord. Someone mentioned this. I think it was one of our mods. Um, said that we're getting an extra secondary, and I was like, I'd be skeptical if we're getting anything. But now that I read the article again, it does say each Space Marine chapter will get an extra secondary. So we may get a fourth secondary. Whether that's good or not remains to be seen. We will have to find out when it actually drops. I would be surprised, however, beyond that, if we get any Templar specific buffs or changes. I don't see them changing, points anywhere. Maybe the EC. They're not going to drop points on Sword Bros, which honestly doesn't really help them anyway. I want like an offense or defensive buff on Sword Brethren, to separate them a little bit from other units. They might get free Pyre Pistols. I'll gladly take that. Um, I don't see them getting free plasma pistols, but maybe free pyre pistols since we already have a precedent for it in the Primaris Crusader squad. That'd be pretty spicy to have four in a 10-man, because you could plop all four into one unit if you wanted to. Um, so that I would like. It's not enough for them, right? But it's something they could do with points. I don't see them changing our data sheets with the data slate. Um, And then our secondaries, I don't know. Yeah, and an extra wound for Sword Bros. I don't know. I don't know if I want to pay points for an extra wound for them. I mean, on the one hand, yeah, but on the other hand, how many points is that going to cost me? So,
Yeah, I won't spill the beans in my from my contact, but I did receive something in the last couple months that excited me a little bit.
yeah.
So I'm hoping, crossing my fingers that the supposed playtest is to turn out right, because everyone will be happy.
Well,
But
I guess we'll have to wait and see.
yes,
Um,
yes,
and then of course they mentioned at the end of the article that points, as we've just been talking about, and data slate changes are coming. I expect flamers to be nerfed. Don't know how bad.
demon flamers to
Demon
clarify.
flamers, yes. Zinch flamers, yeah. I expect them to be nerfed, and they are. If I had to guess, GW is going to knee jerk nerf them and make them unplayable, which is unfortunate for demon players. But yeah, that's how GW operates sometimes. So we'll have to see what happens. So uh, so yeah. Um, any final thoughts on this article, Bob?
Yeah, we're really a little bit into wait and see, but I'm very encouraged by the new force organization chart
Hmm.
that will open up some adaptability. Like we mentioned, we're still going to take troops, or we should take troops, at least one. If I can't say that you're not taking some infiltrators, I mean, shame on you.
Or
But
some sort of concealed positions. Like if you've got a couple squads of eliminators, that's fine too. Um, you know, uh, but we need to have some sort of concealed positions to take those middle objectives to play that trade game. So yeah, because we that's how we're going to win is scoring primaries and denying our opponents.
yep.
So, um, so that's all we've got for you guys today. Thank you so much for joining the stream. Let us know what you think down in the comments if you're watching this after the fact. Um, what do you think about this? How do you think it changes the meta for us, if it does change the meta? Make sure that you hit that subscribe button and like the video so you can click the bell notifications. That way you can get notified on all of our latest content. Check out our Discord. We've talked about that a couple times on here today. We have a great community of people talking Black Templars every day. Really great group of folks, always willing to help out with whatever you need, whether it's list building, hobby advice, anything. It's a fantastic community. Um, and then we have a Patreon as well. So, if you feel like supporting us, we would love that. Check out our Patreon, and we will love all the support that our patrons give us. So, that's all we've got for you guys today, and we'll see you next time.